Welcome in. Now at noon, everyone. Beginning with breaking news, a federal grand jury in Washington has convened in Jack Smith's 2020 election case against the former president, Donald Trump. The former president saying an indictment could come any day now. Those are his words, of course, on social media. Great to see you all and welcome in. I'm Bianca Della Garza.
And I'm John Huddy. Thanks so much for joining us. So this would be Trump's third criminal indictment, as we've been talking about since launching his 2024 presidential campaign. And we, of course, are following every movement very closely. As you said, it could happen at any time. And the other big story today is the fallout by Hunter Biden's former business associate, Devon Archer.
So the House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer releasing his key takeaways from that closed door interview. We'll get to that in just a moment. But also at the top of your screen, we want to note this is Rehoboth Beach, where you see President Biden, and this is the bike trail that he is very frequent a visitor in, and I'm told he is approaching the bike there. There's been lots of video on the beach, though. But of course, as the GOP is heating up their investigation, he's at the beach relaxing. But a lot to get to as we get a lot of reaction from Archer's testimony. He actually said Hunter Biden put his father, then Vice President Joe Biden, on speakerphone during business meetings. He said it was more than 20 times. Archer also telling Congress that Ukrainian natural gas company Burisma Holdings paid Hunter up to $1 million per year to serve on its boards because of what he calls the family's brands. Of course, we'll talk more about Archer's testimony in just a moment, but we do begin with the looming indictment against former President Trump. Let's get you out to the ground where Logan Raddick is standing by outside the federal courthouse in Washington, D.C. Logan, good afternoon.
Bianca and John, good afternoon. And former President Donald Trump, as you mentioned, predicting an indictment could come as soon as this week. And there's a continued large media presence outside the federal courthouse here, and also some Department of Homeland Security officers, as well as other officers around the premises. So there could be an indictment coming at any moment now. But former President Trump, he took to his social media platform, Truth Social, yesterday and said the following statement, quote, "I assume that an indictment from deranged Jack Smith and his highly partisan gang of thugs pertaining to my peacefully and patriotically speech will be coming out any day now as yet another attempt to cover up all the bad news about bribes, payoffs, and extortion coming from the Biden camp. This seems to be the way they do it: election interference, prosecutorial misconduct." Again, so far, no indictment in this case has been brought down, this investigation into the aftermath of the 2020 presidential election. But it does seem like an indictment is looming, especially after former President Trump's lawyers met with special counsel Jack Smith here in Washington last week. Now, again, the media surrounding the courthouse in the last 2 weeks, ever since that target letter was received by former President Donald Trump. And a target letter comes from the Justice Department when prosecutors are likely close to handing down an indictment. Those types of letters, again, normally come down when an indictment is close. Trump received a target letter in the classified documents case just 20 days before that indictment, and he received a target letter for this investigation just over 2 weeks ago. And as this all plays out, former President Donald Trump continues to attack special counsel Jack Smith, whether it's at live events like in Pennsylvania or Iowa, or as I just read on that Truth Social post, a lot of social media posts going after Jack Smith. Again, the grand jury is convening in the court behind me, and there's a chance an indictment could come down any moment. Back to you.
And I know you'll be following it, Logan Raddick, live in Washington, D.C. for the very latest. Logan, thank you. And turning now to congressional correspondent Kilmeny Ducard, who's covering the fallout from Devon Archer's testimony, as you were talking about, Bianca, before the House Oversight Committee. Kilmeny, what's next for the GOP-led investigations into the Biden family?
Yeah, John, Bianca, good to be with you. Did Joe Biden violate the Foreign Agent Registration Act? That's what House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer will be looking into next. He said that the Biden family received millions of dollars from foreign nationals and that Joe Biden spoke over the phone to numerous individuals that Hunter received wires from.
None of these people that he put his dad on the business phone with are reputable business people. They all are under some type of investigation or on the flee in the countries where they originate from. The people that Hunter Biden was putting on speakerphone with his sitting vice president father were some of the worst people on the planet.
A statement from the committee says that these phone calls include a dinner in Paris with a French energy company and in China with Jonathan Lee, the CEO of BHR, but also references a meeting in the spring of 2014. It says then Vice President Biden attended a business dinner with his son Hunter and his associates at Cafe Milano here in Washington, D.C. Elena Baturina, a Russian oligarch who is the widow of the former mayor of Moscow, attended that dinner. Now, a Senate report published in 2020 details Hunter's involvement on the board of Burisma and says Hunter received a $3.5 million wire transfer from Baturina. Now, House Oversight Committee Chair James Comer says that the Treasury Department has flagged more than 170 suspicious activity reports from 6 different banks and is reviewing new transactions. SARs often provide evidence of money laundering and fraud. And Comer is also hoping that documents that are handed over by IRS whistleblowers will confirm his suspicions that Joe Biden has offshore bank accounts. In the meantime, the committee says it's planning to interview more business associates and will publish more bank records to move their investigation forward.
Kilmeny Ducart live with the latest on Capitol Hill. Kilmeny, appreciate it. Great to see you as always.
Thanks, Kilmeny.
And joining us now, senior advisor to President Trump, Jason Miller, with us today. Jason, good afternoon and welcome in.
Hey, Jason.
Great to be with you.
All right, let's get your reaction to what Devon Archer said and what obviously the GOP has, highlighted as some of the takeaways. It's the phone calls. It's the brand. He said that there was constant pressure on Hunter to get help from D.C. We know there's that clip out there about firing the prosecutor. You can't get rid of that. Your takeaways as we kind of unfold and dissect before the transcripts already what has come out.
Well, I want to point to the simple fact that we have testimony now that Joe Biden joined over 20 phone calls of Hunter and his shady foreign businessmen. Okay, if you're joining a call with shady businessmen from another country, you're participating in talking about business dealings. So we know back in 2019, Joe Biden said he had never spoken with Hunter regarding his foreign business dealings. That is very clearly a lie. When Joe Biden was on the debate stage with President Trump in 2020, and he said that his son did nothing wrong with regard to Burisma, how would Joe know? Unless he was intimately involved with the business dealings of Hunter and the rest of the Biden family. So this whole thing stinks. I think it leads all the way up to Joe Biden. And the one other thing that I'd point out here is typically there are certain protocols that are in place for who a vice president or who a president get on the phone with. And to have a conference call with shady foreign business people just magically appear for a vice president, that doesn't happen with a lot of other people not knowing about it.
Yeah, and some face-to-face meetings like Cafe Milano as well,
Right, and also, you had Democratic Congressman Dan Goldman. You probably saw when he came out of the hearing, we dipped into that live and we heard some of what he was saying. And basically, it kind of essentially downplayed it as, hey, Hunter just put his daddy on the phone. Hey, everybody, listen, it's my it's daddy. I mean, I don't know. I talk to my dad a lot, too, but I wouldn't put him on the phone when I'm at a dinner meeting. He also said this, and I want you to listen to this, and then I want to get your reaction. Listen to this soundbite.
Sounds like most of the time, now President Biden didn't even know who the people he was at dinner. He was just asked to say hello, and he would, talk about the way he described it several times. They asked over and over and over. He described what the weather was, how what's going on your end. The witness was very, very consistent that none of those conversations ever had to do with any business dealings or transactions. They were purely what he called casual conversations.
So how's the weather where you are, Jason? I mean, look, one would think that the vice president would know, number one, who's at dinner and whose son is dealing with, and it's really about the optics here too. I mean, just bad optics.
Well, it really is, and so now they're going with the incompetence response that Joe Biden just doesn't know. I mean, for as much as we say that the Joe Biden presidency is effectively a 4-year weekend at Bernie's, this is saying that even well before that, when Joe was VP, it was the same thing. That's not a good answer. That is a bad answer to say, I am so out of it. I am so essentially checked out and incompetent that I didn't know who these people were. Oh, where's your accent from? Russia. What do you do? I'm an oligarch. Oh, okay, great. How's the weather? Guys, that's not how it's done. But the one other thing that I'd point out, the work is done well before they introduced Joe into this situation. So everything would be set up. So all Hunter had to do is say, yep, I can get the Vice President of the United States on the phone or at a dinner. That's all Joe has to do. The work is done before that.
Yeah, and obviously they can try to downplay this, but it is all there, and the transcripts also will be a fascinating read. Finally, though, when we talk about the FARA Act, some say a lot of this testimony proves that at least the low-lying fruit, Hunter Biden didn't register, and they could go after him for that. But the Biden DOJ, for some reason, Jason, has not done that. David Weiss has spent 5 years for 2 tax misdemeanors.
Yeah, and so the issue here is that if you have a foreign government or a state-owned enterprise, essentially a company that is run by the government, so you think of places such as Russia or China, where there's really not much of a distinction between the business or the government itself, they call them SOEs, whenever they're trying to influence American public policy or interact with lawmakers, or actually, quite frankly, they're trying to push a PR, a media agenda inside the United States on behalf of a foreign entity, there are very, very strict rules about having to go and file.
Yeah.
What's clear is that Hunter never did that. Joe Biden never did that. This is really problematic. I think when people start throwing out the impeachment word, I think this is going to start getting a lot more traction because it's problematic. It shows that the Bidens, have been on the take from all these countries: China, Russia, Ukraine, Romania, Iraq, Mexico. If I had more fingers, I would keep counting for all the countries that they've taken money from. This is a problem.
We won't make you take your shoes off today. Jason Miller, great to see you. Thanks so much, and appreciate your insight into this interview with Devon Archer.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jason. Good to see you.
Got it.